Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the RepPath Podcast. Guys, today we're going to do a little bit of a different topic. We're taking the typical topic of med device versus pharma, but instead of what is it like, what's better for me, what's better to break into, we're going to look at the long term. So what's a better role long term? We're talking 25, 30 years into a career. Now, we're going to assume, because everyone gets into this industry and thinks, I'm not going to carry a bag in my 40s. I'm not going to be a sales rep in my 50s. Are you crazy? I'm going to be a vice president by then. And the reality is, guys, most of us don't get to that stage. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to prepare. Is this something that you could see yourself doing for 25, 30 years? And we're going to talk about that today and get into many different specifics that you might not commonly think about. But before we get into that, as always, guys, quick housekeeping. If you have any questions, please submit them into the chat. We'll address them about halfway through. As always, guys, RepPath Academy. If you're struggling, if you can't figure this out, if you're constantly getting ghosted, if you're tired of not moving forward in the interview process, or you get one or two interviews, you're just not getting any offers, don't wait anymore, guys. Things aren't going to change on their own. We can help you make it happen. So go on RepPath.com. You could see there on the screen, you could see, more information about the academy, many of the companies that we've helped place with, and also, testimonials at the bottom of reps that have found success quickly within the academy. Lastly, if you guys want to see this podcast or anything else that we have in our content, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, the RepPath Academy. You can go click on the screen there so you can get a copy of this podcast and any of the other content that we produce. All right. So let's dive right in, guys. Med device versus pharma. What's the better opportunity long term? And to start off, guys, most people ask the wrong question. They ask, which is better? Okay. What they should be asking is, which is a better life for me long term? Okay. Because both can make you successful, but also both can make you miserable. And the real differences show up, 10, 15 years into your career, not year one. So we're going to go through a bunch of different topics today and show the pros and cons from both industries and what, again, you make your own judgments there. So I've been in both industries myself. I've been a pharma rep, I've been a device rep, and I've had success on both sides. And I've also been miserable many days on both sides. So I'm going to be very, very real. If I piss some of you off, sorry, there's no intention to do that, but I'm keeping it real. So any questions, any comments, please submit it into the chat. Would love to, to hear your thoughts. Okay, first off, we're going to talk about two things to start off: identity and burnout. Okay, so let's start with pharma. Okay, first off with pharma, it gets very repetitious. Okay. Every job gets repetitious, guys. So that's no shocker. I don't care if you work behind a desk, you're working in the field, whatever your job is. I mean, you could be a neurosurgeon and get bored of doing whatever neuro procedures every day. Everything gets repetitious, but when it comes to pharma, and this is just my own personal opinion. And again, it's a great industry, a lot of amazing companies out there, a lot of tremendous reps. For me, I got bored. I wanted the action of the operating room. I wanted that stimulation of that high pressure situations. When shit goes down in the operating room and you got to figure shit out. There's a patient on the table. There's doctor and staff looking at you. I mean, it gets real. That might not be for some people, but I wanted that stimulation, and I didn't feel like I was getting that enough in pharma. You have a lot of great conversations with doctors, with clinical staff, but there's very little patient interaction that I dealt with on the pharma side. I know there's some that you can have, especially when you're dealing in specialty pharmacy, rare disease, you might get some, but for the most part, you're going to get more of that on the device side. So for me, it was the repetition and the lack of stimulation. Now, on the vice versa, when you're talking about device, you're going to be dealing with a very intense daily activity. Again, when you're in the OR, there's sometimes your products don't work the way they should. excuse me, or more importantly, because you'll hear this all the time that, drugs or products are very unpredictable. Now, sometimes they are, but trust me, patients are very unpredictable. The way patients react in procedures, because they're not just dealing with your device. Don't forget, they're under anesthesia. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. There's a lot of comorbidities that they have, things that can happen during a case that make it very unpredictable and very intense. So when you're in there for the first time by yourself, you're going to be like, holy shit, this is real. It's a very intense situation. So for me, I love that. Now, it's not for everyone. For other people, be like, oh, man, I don't know if I want to do this every day. So that's number one. And number two, there's constant pressure. Now, there's going to be pressure in pharma too and any other medical sales role. But in my experiences, device, there's always pressure. You could hit your number 4, 5, 6 quarters in a row. You start from day one and that the first day of that quarter, like for instance, today, for most companies, we're starting Q2 today, April 1st. So you could have crushed it 150, 200% the plan in Q1. Day one of Q2 starts, nobody gives a shit. It's back to square one. So you got to go out there and keep performing. They're not going to say, Joe, you know what? Take it easy this quarter because you crushed it the past 3. No, it's constant pressure, constant, growth. Your number's going to increase. You're going to have to constantly keep growing that territory and getting, more and more business month to month, and it gets intense. So again, could be for some, maybe not for others, sorry guys. So to get back, just to sum up with pharma, you can feel that over time you can get, bored, and feel like you're replaceable. You're like, do I really have to give this message? If I'm not here giving this message every day, am I truly, unique that they can't find another individual? And that wore on me. Now, that's not to say that, trust me, let me just clarify. Everyone's replaceable in every industry and every job. They will find someone else, and odds are everyone will be fine. Now, I felt more of a need on the pharma side, on the device side. But it does get mentally exhausting. If you're covering case after day after day, year after year, you're in the OR. A lot of shit happens. Forget even the stress when you're in the OR. But the other challenges is when there's delays. It's so annoying. You get up, you have a 7 a.m. case, you leave your house at 4:30 to be at the hospital by 6. You have to meet with the patient to go over whatever the procedure sometimes, or you're meeting with staff, you're setting up the room. I mean, this is one thing that a lot of reps don't realize. A lot of you candidates that are looking to break in this industry, just a side note, the room just doesn't, there's not someone there to set everything up for you. Okay. You're usually in that room prepping whatever you need to prep. It could be your equipment. You could be dropping off a tray and then going over the tray with some of the staff. You might meet before, go in the lounge and talk to them about the procedure, because you got to make sure you can't just walk in that room and assume that whole staff knows what's going on. A lot of times it could be a new nurse. It could be your first case in a hospital. So you want to make sure you're really there early to make sure that there's nothing that's going to stop you from, getting prepared for that case. So there's so much work that goes into this before the case even starts. You're doing that day after day. And then you're there that early at 6 a.m. The case is supposed to go over at 7. They push it till 11. Then you're waiting for 4 hours. You can't go anywhere. A lot of times you might be able to go out and make a few calls locally. The majority of the time you're stuck in that hospital. It could get delayed again, and you could be there. I've had this happen, guys. I've been there all day and I wanted to blow my brains out by the end of the day. You're like, holy shit, I never even had the case, because by the end of the day, the doctor says, you know what, we're too backed up. We're going to do this next week. I'm going to reschedule. I mean, this has happened. I actually had a case the last day of the quarter. The patient, her blood work came back and we couldn't do the case. And it was at the end of the day, I was screwed. I wind up missing my number by 3% because this case didn't go off. And to say I was pissed off was an understatement. So when you're doing that quarter after quarter, month after month, year after year, whatever it is, starts to wear on you guys. So you got to be prepared that, I'm not being negative. Both sides are great. I'm just being very real. This is some of the stuff that you may not be prepared for. So lifestyle and the golden handcuffs. Okay. So with device, you definitely have potential to make a higher income. All right. So if I'm just comparing the average rep to average rep and what the potential is, there's very few pharma reps besides rare disease that they're making 3, 4, 500,000 a year. There's many more device reps that can make that kind of money. Again, it's not that common, but they have the potential to make a lot more in a sales rep role. You'll see a lot of times where there's sales reps and they are older and you're like, why? This guy's like literally a 10, 11 time President's Club winner. Why wouldn't he move on to manager? And I've talked to a lot of these guys throughout the years, especially when I was younger, because there were guys I worked with at Boston Scientific that legitimately you knew how much they were making just by their numbers and just doing simple math. Like, why don't you want to be a manager? And one of the guys told me, he goes, Joe, it's 1/3 of what I'm making now. I can make $200,000-300,000 a year. This guy was making $800,000, close to $1 million every year over year. I mean, who the hell is going to give that up? So you could make a lot of money on the device side. So it's very hard to leave. Those are crazy numbers, but realistic numbers. You're making 250, 300 plus year over year consistently. That's a hard job to leave. They got to offer something better, because why would you take such a big step back? So that's the device side. Pharma, you're going to get a more predictable income, on average. For me, I swayed within 50, 60,000 every year. I didn't have 1 year making 150, the next year making 400,000. You're just not going to see that on the device, on the pharma side. While the potential might not be as high, you still can make a very good living, and at least it's more predictable year over year. And you can pivot, into other careers. Device is harder go from pharma to device. That's a harder pivot, because a lot of pharma companies, a lot of device companies and hiring managers, they rather hire a device rep because they know that they understand that work-life balance. They understand what it's like to be in the operating room. They typically work longer days, and they give the negative stigma with a lot of these pharma reps, like they're lazy, like they don't work as hard, they don't spend as many hours. Now, I know both good and bad reps on both sides. So sometimes that's true and sometimes it's not. But I'm just telling you what the stigma is with a lot of these hiring managers. But you can pivot into other roles in diagnostics and obviously go into other pharma or maybe even capital equipment roles. But device, it's a little bit harder to switch from pharma into device. So device can trap you financially and pharma can cap you financially. Okay, that's the takeaway here. And that's why they call, a lot of times with pharma, they call it the golden handcuffs. And the reason why they call it that is, you'll hear this term, it's the golden handcuffs. They give you a car, or they give you a great car allowance. They give you great benefits. Again, you make a very good salary. Your bonus potential is typically not as high as in device, but overall, it's a great job. So they go, how can you leave? You're not working 15, 12 hours. Some days you're not doing any of that. You're working a few hours a day. That's one of the realities that nobody's going to tell you. I'm going to tell you here. There's some reps that might put in an 8-hour day once in a while, but you are not working 8 to 5 days a week in pharma. I don't care who says they are. That is not possible. You can't do it every day. There's not enough doctors to have conversations with every day. In device, you're going to work more because of the OR time. It's just that simple. Sometimes cases, there were cases I've been involved in and went 12, 15 hours. It's rare, but majority of the time, a couple hour case, you do a few of those in a day, you're going to have a full day. Okay. So let's talk about relationships and time. So for device, the schedule is controlled, and it's really out of your hands, guys. You don't say to the doctor, you know what, instead of 2:00 today, I'm busy. And also I want to get out and do a happy hour today. Push that up to 11 o'clock. James, got a great movie reference, buddy, but I don't know if you're too young. You might.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield.
I know the movie, never seen it.
Oh, my God, buddy. You're killing me with it. Forget Over the Top. Go see Back to School first. Watch that tonight. It's a classic comedy. So Rodney's a billionaire that goes back to school to help, support his son who's starting out in college. So he goes back to school with him. And he's an old school degenerate. He loves to party, everything. And his son goes over with him. He goes, Dad, what time is what's your schedule tomorrow? He goes, I have, he goes, he goes, Dad, you have an 11 o'clock class with Professor so-and-so. He goes, no. He goes, I got a massage at 11 o'clock. He goes, tell him to make it 2 o'clock. Like that. He's like, no, Dad, it doesn't work that way. They don't change the schedule for you. Anyway, if you understood the movie, you saw the movie, great reference.
I heard what you were saying in Rodney Dangerfield's voice, though.
Okay, thank you. I know it's a great impersonation.
Great.
But anyway, obviously the schedule is out of your hands, guys. You have to go by what the doctor's schedule, what the hospital schedule. So you get used to that, and that's just like any job. You got to do what you got to do, but you don't really control your schedule. You're gonna miss events. You're gonna miss, sometimes family time. There was a lot of events in my late 20s and early 30s that I missed. That I wanted to be out with friends. Happy hours, golf on a Friday, or whenever you want to get out early and have some leisure time. It's not as easy in device. Pharma, you're going to have more flexibility. Just that simple. I mean, the toughest days when you're really strapped down in pharma is when they do a ride along, when your manager is working with you. Okay, so if some of you guys don't know what a ride along is, that's when your manager spends the day with you, or someone from the home office or someone else from the company spends a day with you to, really see what it's like when you're riding with your manager. Those days, I've had some great managers. I don't know any sales rep that says, I love riding with my manager every day. Most people hate it. A lot of times if you have a good manager, you could have a good day. The manager can be great, give a lot of good feedback, but it's uncomfortable when you have someone staring over you, basically grading you all day. I mean, nobody wants that shit. And you also, to impress your manager, everyone, you'll probably deny this, some of you out there, but most of you know what I'm talking about. You book a full day with your manager to really show them how hard you're working. You'll schedule a breakfast, you'll try to schedule a lunch, maybe even get a doctor out for dinner, whatever it is. You got 2 days in a row that you're going to be, slammed with that manager. Other than that, the day is pretty much your own. As long as you're hitting your number, most managers and companies don't give a shit. Okay. It's when you're not hitting your number, then they're going to start looking into things. Now, for some of you too, again, depends on the companies. They have sign-in pads, when either you're dropping samples off, or sometimes even when you're visiting accounts, that they want you to get a signature from a clinician or someone in that office showing that you were at that account. Now, they do this because they want to see when you were there. Now, these are some companies. If you're being tracked more and more as the years go on, we're tracked more and more every movement we make. That's not fun. Okay. For me, I was the type, I didn't care when you were working, what you were doing, if you were hitting your number. If you didn't hit your number, then we're going to have a conversation. So that's one of the things that you have to realize. But overall, pharma, you're going to have more freedom and ability to control your own schedule. So that's something to think about, because I know when I was in my 20s, I still, me and my wife, it's just us. We don't have any kids. But most people in their mid to late 40s, they do have kids. They do have events. They have their sports. They have all these things that you don't think about when you're getting into this industry. And, some people could be starting in their 40s, but a lot of you are in your mid, early 20s. You're not thinking about what is this going to do in my daily day when I'm 45 years old and I want to be at my son's my daughter's softball game or my son's football practice or whatever it is. You got to think about that. I'm not saying to make a decision just because of your kid's schedule that don't exist yet, but it's something to think about when you don't, it's something you got to think about and give some thought. Is this something that I could see myself doing in my mid to late 40s? Because again, guys, not everyone is going to move on to management. You got to think, is this the role that I could see myself doing forever? And if it's not, then again, you got to give it some more thought and start looking at other options. So overall career longevity, it's the next thing we'll talk about. So device, it's difficult, guys. For me to be in an operating room for 30 years, covering cases, dealing with all that, a lot of great stuff, a lot of success, a lot of excitement. Do I want to do that for 30 years? No. I'll say it straight up now. I've been in the industry almost 25 years. Obviously I moved on from the corporate world to, owning my own companies and doing the whole entrepreneurial route, which I love. And that might not be for everyone too, because you have different stresses that you have to deal with. But I didn't want to be in an operating room doing that 10, 12 hours a day, in my mid to late 40s. So that wasn't for me. Could be for some of you, but it's not an easy life to maintain 30 years down the line, because we all say the same thing. I'm not going to be doing this in my 40s. All of a sudden your 30s go by like that and you're in your 40s. You're like, holy shit, I'm still in operating rooms. So you got to really weigh that out, guys, because it's not something that's that easy. So a lot of reps, I deal with a lot of these, individuals that have been doing this 15, 20 years, and they're looking to pivot into other roles. So a lot of people, some of the golden roles out there are selling device, but you don't have to be in the operating room every day. I mean, those are great, great products to sell. Everyone wants to do that, where you're just selling all day long and don't have any OR coverage, or you have clinicals that just cover cases all day for you. Those are great jobs. Of course, if they're great, everyone wants them. They're going to be that much harder to get. And there's far and few between, because most device jobs, you're going to have some case coverage that you're going to have to handle yourself too, even if you do have a couple clinicals. So it's just something to think about. Pharma, it is easier to stay long-term. I've worked with more pharma reps, both working for companies and also consulting, that I see people in their 50s and 60s where they're still reps and they're happy as can be. Because let's be real, guys, you're in the car, you're getting out, you might carry some samples in, say hello to the doctor, to the staff, have a conversation. It's not, you're not digging ditches all day here, guys. You're not working in a coal mine, working your ass off. It's not that stressful physically. So it's something that a lot of older sales reps can maintain that longer in their career. That basically covers the longevity aspects of this. So we touched on this a little bit, but I'll touch on it again. The risk and income stability. So again, device, the stability, it's a little different, guys, because a lot of you think that once you grow a territory, so you start out from zero or whatever you took it over at, you could grow to a couple $1 million, maybe more, 5, 10 million, which are great. Those are typically very busy, well-established territories. But a lot of times there could be 2 or 3 doctors. I've seen this many times. I've had it happen to me where a doctor retired and all of a sudden my numbers drop by like 20%. Or someone, moves, or a doctor, drops you because there's another new player in town and they just have superior technology and you have drastic drops in your numbers. It happens. It's something you think every year going to just keep growing, but there's always competition, and it could be 1 or 2 doctors that make you, which is a great thing, but they could also break you. So that stability it's riskier and is not as guaranteed in device. Pharma, again, it's going to be more stable. You're typically month over month, you're going to have a pretty good idea of the paychecks you're going to be bringing in, especially when you get more established. A couple doctors here or there can leave. Yeah, of course, they could affect your numbers too. I've just seen more drastic effects on the device side. But the flip side of that is it's capped. A lot of times you're not going to see sales reps year over year, again, getting to those 300,000, 400,000, 500,000. It's very rare. I only see it typically in rare disease. I very rarely see it in many of the other typical pharma roles. So you got to weigh that trade-off. So the psychological aspects, guys. So first with device, you get immediate wins. All right. So it's a lot of adrenaline when you go into you go into an office, you talk with Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones goes, you know what, Joe? I'm going to use you on my next case. Speak to Bill. He'll set you up. He's my scheduler. Get on the schedule. We have a case next Tuesday. So you leave there essentially with the sale. Now, of course, the case has to go off. And after the case happens, you leave your bill for all the equipment, and then they give you a purchase order either that day or over the next couple of weeks. But once you get that case booked, you essentially made a sale. All right, so it's a very rewarding feeling. In pharma, it's a little different. Typically in pharma, you're getting yes to death. Okay, this is one of the most difficult concepts that young reps, they don't fully grasp when you're working and you're trying to get into that industry. You go in there, and these doctors aren't stupid, guys. When they want to get you out of the room, what's an easier way to get you out of the room? To combat you and keep giving you objections, or just go, Joe, sounds great. Oh, I love it. I actually have 3 patients that I'm thinking about right now that are coming in next week. I'm going to prescribe it to all 3 of them. Right? And so you leave there going, this is awesome. I totally sold them. There is no guarantee until you can't be there sitting there every day. Many doctors, you're not allowed to sit in the office while they're prescribing a drug to a patient and you're checking over their shoulder. I mean, again, that's HIPAA violations galore. So you leave there thinking that you have a prescription, that you got a script today from that doctor, or you're going to get a couple next week. Now, one of the things you might not realize, there's a lag time when you get those numbers. So some companies are a little bit, they get data a little bit more up to date, but you're never going to leave there and get the data later that day whenever a prescription was given and know immediately. Sometimes there's a couple weeks lag time. So that conversation that you had, you don't know if you made an impact. It could be a month later. The numbers come out. And then you're like, holy shit, how come there's no prescriptions from Dr. Jones? Well, because Dr. Jones probably lied to you just get you out of the office. So that's very frustrating, very frustrating. So it's a psychological warfare that you got to play with yourself, because you don't want to get overly excited, but you also want to mentally celebrate these small wins. But sometimes you don't get that confirmation if you did well or not until weeks later. So that's something you guys got to think about. You get that instant gratification in device. Pharma, sometimes it could be a little bit longer before you see the results. Let's talk about, okay. So just seeing the last couple topics here. So you got to weigh at the end of the day, guys, when you're talking about both device and pharma. Number one, have you need a mid-career reality check. If you love what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing. And this means nothing. You could ignore this whole podcast. But if you're thinking, I'm just trying to give you the realities of both sides, because everyone always thinks the grass is always greener. When they're upset about their job, they're like, I'm ready to move on to something else. I want to get into device. I'm bored in pharma. Or device is killing me. I need a little bit less stress. I want to get into pharma. It's no job out there is the perfect job. Excuse me. Sorry. There's no job out there that's a perfect job. There's going to be issues on both sides. Doesn't matter what you take. We didn't talk about diagnostics, capital equipment, distribution, DME. There's many other medical sales fields you guys can go into. I'm just picking the 2 most popular today. Okay, so I just wanted to give more of a long-term look at what this looks like, as opposed to that quick first year. I mean, everything first year is great. It's a lot of excitement. It's new. You got to think about that years down the line. Is this something I could see myself continuing to do? And sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you figure it out. I'm just trying to give you my point of view of someone that's been in this industry a long time, and my point of view looking back. So I think it's a good time. We'll take a break. James, any questions from the crowd?
We got quite a few today, Joe.
Awesome.
We got Karen Mosley, is it true that device reps spend way more time in the OR than pharma reps spend with doctors? And does that actually lead to better long-term relationships, or does it just burn you out faster?
In device, or there, I'm sorry, I just got a text at the same time. You said in device. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, James.
She asked, is it true that device reps spend way more time in the OR than pharma reps spend with doctors? And does
Well,
that actually lead to better long-term relationships, or does it just burn you out faster?
well, it could burn you out, but the first part of the question, yes, you 1000% spend more time in the OR. You're never going to be in the OR as a pharma rep. Very rarely. Very rarely. Like I did, I was in OR procedures when I was selling anesthesia drugs, more on an observational basis. Are you needed? Do they really want you there as a pharma rep? There's really no need unless it's a new drug and they're really testing out different reactions. They want to make sure dosing's correct. Excuse me. Then there might be a rep, but I rarely ever see a pharma rep in the operating room. It's always device reps. And the great thing, though, as much as you can get burnout from being in the operating rooms a lot, the great thing is you're hours with the doctor. I mean, you literally sit there sometimes. I worked in cath labs and set hours, like 8, 10 hours with physicians in the control room sitting next to each other. I mean, if you can't build a relationship and show value, you know, I don't know what, I don't know how much more time you can ask for. So that part is great. And a lot of times the device, the pharma, the doctors, build a closer bond with the device reps because they are in the trenches with them in the operating room. They are side by side. There are many more opportunities where they can show their skills and their sales support, live. They're in a case and shit goes wrong. And a lot of times device reps, they give a great suggestion and get the doctors out of a hairy situation. Believe me, I've been there. You leave there, you feel like Superman that day. The doctors are like, oh my God, Joe, thank you so much. You saved me. I mean, I've had that. It's a great feeling. It doesn't happen every day. A lot of times cases are boring and it's uneventful, but there's a lot of times where it's not. So when you can really show your skills, you're going to really build your relationships and build trust, most importantly, with those doctors in device. You could still build trust, but it's harder on the pharma side because you're typically having quicker conversations. It's typically in the office based. They're seeing 50, 100 patients in a day. The longest you usually get time with doctors on the pharma side is during a breakfast or lunch. Yes, for dinner. For me, I got to be honest, guys, a lot of companies, they're not even doing dinners that much anymore, if ever, because of, again, different, because of the Sunshine Act. And they don't, again, everything gets considered to be a bribe in the medical field, which I think is nonsense. I mean, any other field that could take a doctor out to dinner, we get scrutinized more than ever that we're trying to influence them just by having, a pasta or steaks with them. It's ridiculous. But I found the most value on the pharma side, spending a lunch or a breakfast where you get that 20 minutes, sometimes up to an hour, where you can really have a good conversation with them.
Rachel Castellano. I keep hearing pharma reps say their jobs are becoming more digital and less face-to-face. Is that making the device side more appealing for people who actually want to build real relationships?
I mean, it could be. It definitely could be. Let's be real, guys. AI is real. I'd be lying if I'd say that it's not going to affect any of our jobs. I mean, I don't know my career. I don't know if people are going to need me for consulting, for recruiting, for coaching, 10 years from now. Who knows? We all don't know. AI is amazing, but it's scary as shit. There's so many things that we just press a button. I mean, a lot of doctors aren't going to be useful. I mean, I know I chat GPT whenever I have any ailments and I see a doctor the next day that chat GPT gave me better information than the doctor did. It's scary. So a lot of those just true detailing positions, yeah, it could be scary in the future. Is this something that we think that they're still going to need? I don't know. So you got to think about that too, because digitally, but that could affect both sides. I mean, they're talking about certain surgical procedures. I mean, the Da Vinci robot came out 25 years ago. There's many other robotic procedures that the robots are doing a good portion of the work. And, I don't know if you guys see with Tesla and the robots that they come out with. I mean, these things are freaking doing everything in your house. They literally are like a robotic slave for you that can do whatever you want to set it up to do. And this is available now. So only in 5-10 years, who knows what's going to be going on in these operating rooms that are more precise, they're very accurate, they don't have any human error. I mean, both sides could see, unpredictable futures.
Absolutely terrifying, Joe. Terrifying.
It is.
Terrifying. I've seen this movie once or twice before.
Yeah, we also Terminator.
Yeah, iRobot. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, and we don't want to be like doom and gloom here, guys. We're just being real.
Yeah.
Who knows what the future holds, but it's gonna take an effect in some capacity. We just don't know how much.
Take me back to 1998, Joe.
Oh man, take me back to 88.
Yeah, well, that was the year I was born, so I don't know. But Jen plans things 22, 21. How much does your college major actually matter when you're trying to get into either side, or is experience more important at this point?
Experience is way more important. There are some companies that will put in the job posting, but when they call me up, Joe, I'm looking for someone with a science background. Very rare, guys. I'd say less than 5% ever put that in. So the majority of the time, they don't give a shit if you're a communication, psychology major, business major. They don't care. For the most part, they don't care what college you went to. As long as you have a 4-year degree, for many of those companies, you check off that list. But there's a lot of companies out there, guys, that don't care if you have a degree. You just got to know which areas to look at. And I see a lot of you that come out, or you get frustrated because you have an associate's, and you're like, Joe, I'm constantly getting ghosted. First thing I ask, where are you applying? And then they talk about, well, pharma, device, capital equipment. So when I hear pharma, this, again, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but because I'm sure there's 1 or 2 companies that are pharma companies that hire without a 4-year degree. It's very rare. So if you don't have a 4-year degree, you have an associate's or no degree at all, don't even waste time applying to pharma companies. 99.9% want a 4-year degree and at least a year of B2B sales experience. Again, there's going to be a couple outliers. Device, many of them want college degrees, but a lot of them don't need it. There's a lot of companies that hire people without degrees. They hire college students. They hire associate people with associate degrees. DME, another one, associate degrees. Many of them will hire. Distribution, another one that you don't need a 4-year degree. Some require, some don't. But pharma, stay away from if you don't have a degree, because you're going to get yourself frustrated because you're going to get ghosted a lot, or you're going to get rejected.
Davion Fitness. Which side gives you more autonomy day to day? Like, who's micromanaging less?
Pharma, definitely. Now, let me say this. Your manager can make or break you. A bad manager can take the greatest job in the world and destroy it and make you friggin' miserable, guys. I've been there. I've probably only had 2 awful managers throughout my years. And I've had a lot of managers. I had some I just disagree with a lot, or didn't really love their work style, but I respected them because they still, were very helpful. I had many amazing managers that I learned a lot from. I had a couple that were terrible, and they literally took roles that I had and made me miserable every day. I mean, we've all been there. You look at your phone and you see that number come up, you see their name come up, and you cringe. You're like, what now? What does this person want now? So they can micromanage either the pharma or device side and make your life a living hell. Okay, so when you're during the interview process, you guys must be doing your due diligence and speaking to sales reps that work with that hiring manager. You have to, guys. Again, this is your career. You could be there, for the next 30 years of your life. It's very unlikely because it's rare to be at one company your whole career. But you're making a career pivot. You want to make sure what this manager's work style is, because some could be tough, it could be on you, but they're good managers. The ones that truly micromanage and are just busting you every day for nonsense, that's very tough to work with. So it doesn't matter farm or device, you're going to see that. You could see that on both sides, but typically, if you have a normal manager that gives you the autonomy, you're going to get more freedom in pharma. Okay, you're going to do a 2-day ride along typically every 6 weeks. That's the way the schedule usually works. Mondays and Tuesdays, they'll be with one rep. Wednesdays and Thursdays will be with another rep. Fridays is their office day where they work from home. That's a typical manager's schedule. Some don't spend that much time in the field. Some never spend time in the field. But the average on the pharma side, they're in the field 4 days a week with 2 reps. So every 6 to 8 weeks, they're going to be working with you. Those are the days where, where you're going to give up your autonomy. But other than that, you're calling on offices. You're not in ORs. You have appointments here or there, meeting with doctors, doing lunches, doing breakfast, whatever you might have. But it's not like device, because you're going to be in those operating rooms, and that's what really takes away the autonomy from you.
Melon Motion, are there device roles that don't require you to be on call, or is that basically the trade-off for the higher income?
There's many device roles that you're not on call. The toughest device jobs out there are trauma. Trauma, you're not on call every weekend, but it depends on your territory. But you could be on call a lot. Usually I'll have some sort of rotation, where you're working every other weekend, you're on call, or once a month, whatever it is. And then the higher you get, higher up on the totem pole of those sales reps, you also could have clinicals that are constantly doing those weekend cases. But that's not every type of specialty out there. Trauma for me is the toughest by far out there. It's the most demanding, the most unpredictable. I know I have one buddy who's been doing this almost 25 years. He's the only one I've ever met that has worked for the same company. He works for Stryker. He does really well. Great guy, awesome guy. But he's been killing himself for 25 years. And he's just got that unique mind where he just keeps going. That's very rare. Saying that, there's many, many device companies out there that you're not on call. There's a lot of elective procedures. So that's what you want to focus on, guys. How are these procedures booked? If they're emergencies, just think, guys, trauma, no one says, I know, God forbid, when I'm going to get in a car accident. Car accidents happen. Things happen. And they get rushed to emergency rooms. That's unpredictable. But if you're going even for like an ablation, that's a scheduled elective procedure. They don't have to do it that day. Sometimes they do, but many times it's going to be booked weeks ahead of time, month ahead of time, days ahead of time. You're going to know. You're going to know for a lot of the procedures out there, whether it's an emergency or elective. You should know that when you're interviewing and going into these jobs, and ask them these questions. It's okay, guys. Again, you don't have to pretend like all I want to do is just, sacrifice my whole life every weekend, every night for my company. I mean, you have to have some sort of balance. And if it's not for you, then don't take the job. But you got to make sure, are these elective procedures or are these emergencies? And you need to know that, and that'll help you determine if you're going to have the flexibility or not.
I got Real Mike Sanchez. Joe, is it possible to do well in device sales if you genuinely don't like the idea of being in an operating room, or is that a non-negotiable part of the job?
I mean, again, there are some devices out there that you don't have to be in the operating room. It's rare. So if you don't like blood, if you don't like being in the operating room, you don't like the smells of the operating room. I mean, because that's one of the things that many of you might not realize. Smells are harder than, well, for me it is. I can see anything, but there's certain odors in an operating room. I mean, when they're cauterizing and they're burning flesh, guys, that's a wicked smell. I mean, sometimes, it's bad. It's bad. I mean, one of the first procedures I ever saw was a colonoscopy at St. James Hospital back in, I think it was 1998.
Probably loved watching that one, Joe.
And I don't have to get graphic, but you know, the patient went to the bathroom in the middle of the case, and it was unbearable standing over and that strength of that smell. I mean, there's a lot of odors that you might not be prepared for. Another thing, one of the first cases I saw, I almost passed out because of the lights. Those OR lights, when they're on you, your heart's racing, your adrenaline's pumping, you're seeing a case, there's a lot going on, you're excited, you're nervous, and now you got these Yankee Stadium lights burning on your face. I almost passed out. First time I looked up and I was seeing a TMJ procedure with an oral surgeon and a good friend, amazing doctor, Dr. Ferrara. And he looked up at me and he saw me getting like this. And he goes, "You okay?" And he's like, "Joey, go up and lean up against the wall." And I went up and I leaned up against the wall, took a couple breaths. And then once I felt myself, getting some air, then I was able to come back in and regroup. But these are things that no one prepares you for. You have no idea that no one teaches you this many times in training. But it's definitely, there's a lot in there that it's a lot of unexpected. So if you're not for all that, if you have any inkling that you don't want to be in an OR, don't look in device. There's plenty other specialties, plenty other areas. Pharma, again, distribution, DME, diagnostics. These are all great fields. Go look in those areas because you don't want to make yourself miserable, guys. And you also don't want to go through the whole interview process when you knew that this wasn't for you. Don't waste your time. Don't waste the company's time.
We got Kristen Stork said Bovie smells aren't that bad. We have Avery Walker. I know you said it's harder to move into device if you start somewhere else, but would you recommend starting in device if you're someone who values both high performance and long-term lifestyle balance, or is pharma a better entry point?
For you, Avery, what you're describing, definitely device. Because you can always go from device into something else. Right now, the reality, though, a lot of, you can be, all right, so again, you could be in a device role, in one role for 5 years, and you're just covering ortho procedures, right? That sometimes doesn't translate into every opening out there. Because they could say, well, Joe, all you know is ortho. And they might be like, well, you only been doing this one procedure for 5 years. I need someone with cardiac experience. That could happen. But then you could get companies that say, I don't care. You have experience in the OR. We need someone that's comfortable in the OR so they can, call on doctors in this other OR procedure. As long as you understand the OR, then you can transfer those skills into many different fields. The other thing is there's nothing that compares to that stress and that intensity of the OR. So if you can handle the OR, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to handle an office-based sale because you're typically doing both anyway. It's not like you just go into cases, that's all you do if you're a territory manager, because clinicals, they could just spend all day and night in cases. But a lot of the sales reps, they're calling on doctors in the hospital, in surgery centers, in offices, and trying to get time with them however they can so they can, sell their products. The whole point is you're covering more in device, and you can go typically from device into whatever you want, pharma, diagnostics, whatever, easier than a pharma rep going into device.
We got Big Dog Brady. Joe, what's your take on capital equipment reps versus disposable device reps? Is one better long-term play than the other?
Well, capital's a different animal. Capital, you have to celebrate. Excuse me. You're not selling something every day in capital. It's just, you're not. Some of the capital, the sales cycle is extremely long sometimes. Again, when I was in robotics, some of the sales we were working on for 3 years. 3 years. It's crazy, guys. Now it's an extreme sale, it's an expensive piece of equipment, and not every hospital can buy this every day. I mean, there's a lot of the stars had to align for these systems to get sold. So you have to be prepared for, is that something I want to do where I'm not going to get that satisfaction of getting a sale every day? I mean, I used to celebrate if I got an appointment on my calendar with some of these, CFOs or CEOs or, VPs of departments. I mean, I came home and literally went out to dinner with my wife celebrating like I sold something. And it was just moving the next step in the process. So you're going to have a lot of phases in capital equipment sales where phase one, say, can be just identifying a project. Phase two could be, do they have the budget, to support this? Can they afford it, basically? Do you have a champion? I mean, my old company used to break it down into different phases so you knew where you were in the buying cycle. It was never just, did you sell something this week? No, it's like, what phase are we in? And if we know we got down to 8, 9, or 10, and there's 12 phases, okay, so now we start getting excited that a sale might actually happen. So that's the difference. That's just the capital side. The disposable side, again, that could be great, especially if you could get in a role where once doctors know to use your product and they love it, that they're using it without you there. So a lot of those disposable roles, you could get some great products, teach doctors how to use them, or it takes, it could take an in-service, and it's easy for them. And they're smart guys, obviously, guys and girls. They can use that without you there. Those are good positions to get into too. So it's really what you look for more. Both could be very rewarding, but the big difference is the timeline and of that sales cycle in capital versus disposable.
We got Casey Moto. Joe, can you talk about what happens when a device gets recalled or pulled from the market? Does that just wipe out your income overnight, or is there some kind of safety net?
It could. I mean, that doesn't happen all the time. So I don't want you guys to be out there all going, oh man, I'm not going to get into device. They're constantly pulling products. I mean, especially with startups, guys. So a lot of you want to get into a startup. Startups are very appealing. There was a time in my life, I loved startups. You can make a lot of money. That's where you hear people, I mean, like Facebook and all these companies that people became billionaires. Facebook was a startup 20 years ago, but everything is risky. It gets much riskier. So you can have a product, only have one product, and it could get pulled and you never even get it to market. They hire a whole team. I've seen this, guys. I've been there where teams have been established, structure's been established, the product they're all excited about, and they don't get funding, or it doesn't get released, or it gets released and then gets pulled quickly because of, whatever issues that have happened. That could happen. But an established company, they usually have multiple products in their bag where if something does get pulled, yes, that sucks. Yes, it can hurt you. Yes, there's going to probably be layoffs. A lot of times companies get through that because they have more products in their bag to sell. So it could be catastrophic and you're out of a job and the company folds, or it could be like, wow, this sucks. Now we got to pivot from one product to another now.
Yeah, that sounds pretty rough. Handmade by Hannah. Are there hybrid roles out there that blend device and pharma, or is it pretty much one lane or the other once you commit?
Actually, when I worked at Baxter, there's definitely products out there that are a combination. So, for instance, pain pumps. That's one. I mean, they're using whatever pain medication along with the pump that gets put in the patient's attached to the patient and gives them a drip to relieve their pain. I used to sell vaporizers. Now, vaporizers had two components. There's the actual vaporizer, the canister. So if anyone's ever seen an anesthesia machine, you'll see these two canisters. You'll see like a blue or a yellow. Blue is desflurane. Yellow is sevoflurane, or it could be a red isoflurane. It's basically one of the gases that they give you to help knock you out in the anesthesia process. So they have the canister, which, I believe ours were, I forget the exact numbers, thousand, it was less than $20,000, maybe $10,000 for the canister. But just the canister sitting there, that's just a capital component. Now you need the pharmaceutical component, which is the actual liquid that turns to gas, and it comes in an actual container, picture like a Red Bull can, and they'll put that into the canister, and that helps give off the gas. So that's the pharmaceutical side of it. So that is just one example that you can definitely do both. There are some products that combine both, but that's rare.
Kyle does it all. Do you think AI and automation are going to shrink one side more than the other over the next 10 years, or are both relatively safe?
I don't think anything I could sit here and say that we're definitely safe. If I had to guess, because of the hands-on component, and again, the more hands-on, so the roles where they need you in the operating room, the case doesn't go on without you. Those roles are going to be the safest for now. Roles that you're just having conversations with doctors, that to me seems to be the most at risk. Because more and more, the sales reps originally, especially on the pharma side, the doctors would always say, we can't keep up with all the information. They used to have to actually read everything, get journals, read the journals, and a lot of them always keep up to date, but they can't keep up with every drug out there. It's not possible. I mean, now, guys, I think doctors would be lying if they told you they don't use ChatGPT. I mean, why wouldn't they? I mean, they can literally press a button and ask ChatGPT if it's a new drug, basically, what do I have to be concerned about with this patient? Plug in all their comorbidities, see the risk, and it's going to print out some sort of response that can guide them in their care. So to me, roles like that could be at the riskier roles, because you can't possibly see a major need for that the way we're going, 10, 20 years from now.
I saw something terrifying the other day that it said the doctors of the next generation are learning to be doctors through ChatGPT. I was like, oh boy, boy.
James, I've had so many stupid little ailments over the past year or two, in and out of these doctors' offices. I can't tell you how many times I don't like to throw it in their faces, but I'll do my due diligence and then ask them questions. And a lot of times, the ChatGPT gave me better information, and then they're backing it up. But a lot of the things, it's impossible to beat the machine.
Yeah.
We're humans. We only can know so much. The machine is constantly gathering data. It's hard to compete with.
That's definitely true. That is definitely true. I got Daniel Strauss. Joe, with the growth of ambulatory surgery centers pulling procedures out of hospitals, is that reshaping the device rep role in a way that make it look more like pharma's modeling long term?
No, it's not. It's the only difference when you're selling something in a surgery center, I don't want to say the only difference, but when you're in the operating room, you're in an operating room. Once you're in that room, whether you're in a surgery center or a hospital, when you're in the room, it's not like you can tell where you are. You're in a procedure. So it's not going to turn it into a pharma procedure because it's in a different building. The main difference is typically access. There's usually less red tape and less levels of decision making when you're in surgery centers versus hospitals. Also, the volume is vastly different from a surgery center to a hospital. I mean, there could be one or two cases going on in the room in a day. In a surgery center, maybe say 10 cases total throughout the whole surgery center, and there could be thousands going on in the hospital. So that volume is a big difference. But just because it's a smaller setting, it doesn't turn it into a pharma type call.
I got Dr. Amanda Liu. She said, from a surgeon's perspective, the device reps I work with essentially become part of the clinical team. Does pharma offer anything close to that level of integration and professional identity?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of integration. I mean, a lot of companies also have MSLs on the pharma side, which typically could be PhD professionals. They could even be MDs that took a MSL stands for medical science liaison. So they're allowed to have off-label conversations with doctors. They're essentially colleagues speaking, one-on-one with them, and they can talk about anything. Sales reps can't do that. Pharma reps, I'm not allowed. If a doctor says, "Hey Joe, can I use it for this off-label use?" I can't go, "Oh yeah, absolutely." You could get fired for that. You can get a lot of trouble. So you can say, I can't answer that. I have to recommend that you do not do that. But I also can get an MSL if you'd like to have a clinical conversation and let them speak, where it's more of a collaboration. But there's definitely many ways that pharma reps collaborate, and work with physicians. It's just never going to be as hands-on like a device rep.
That's all I got for you today, Joe.
That's it. Awesome.
That's it.
Thank you, James.
Of course.
A lot of great questions, guys. So thank you guys for asking all them. Thank you guys all for joining. Again, guys, I'm not here to scare anyone. Both sides are amazing, amazing careers. I'm just trying to give you a different point of view. It's not just about breaking in. It's about, where do I see myself in 20 years, 30 years? Do I see myself still doing this? And I'm just trying to be real with, the pros and cons of both sides. All right. So, but if you guys have any other questions, you forgot something you want to ask, always reach out to me. You could shoot me a DM. That's the easiest way, through LinkedIn. You also can send me an email at joe@reppath.com. Other than that, guys, lastly, as always, guys, RepPath Academy, I say it over and over. If you really want to break into this industry, reach out to me, shoot me a message on DM, shoot me a DM, or send me an email, joe@reppath.com. You see the link on the screen there. Just click the link and schedule a call. And if any of you are lobby members, please make sure that you submit the promo code Licata. You see it there at the bottom of the screen, LICATA, and you can get additional discounts. But other than that, guys, thank you for joining. Have a great week, great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.